So stay with us here on TVC Breakfast. It's not time for us to look at what the papers are reporting. The Nation newspaper with a banner headline: Senate takes steps to fast-track Electoral Act 2022 amendment. Electronic transfer of results, BVAS use may be legalized. This Nigeria Electoral Act review, deadlock in Senate, fails to agree on key clauses, orders fresh scrutiny of entire act. And Nigerian Tribune 2027, waiting game persists as Senate delays Electoral Act bill. Defers action to Tuesday, raises mini committee to distill senators' views. Reps step down consideration of outstanding clauses. And next is Blueprint newspaper, Electoral Act review. Vote buyers risk 5 million naira fine, 2-year jail, and 10-year ban from politics. Exercise will usher in electoral credibility, stable democracy. That's according to Bamdele. Adigbomire chairs Senate's 7-man amendment committee. The Punch newspaper, federal government's 9 trillion naira domestic loan surge drains lifeline from businesses. Private sector lending falls as federal government's domestic borrowing jumps 152%. Economists say stricter loan rules choking off business funding. The Business Nigeria, new tax law exempts schools, hospitals, pharma firms from company income tax, experts advisory. And the Guardian newspaper, publish or perish, how varsities or how universities must produce research without quote-unquote solutions to societal ills. And the Platform Times, Antipiracy war, NCC destroys 50.6 million naira pirated books in Ondo, Ekiti. Nigeria News Direct, federal government's free meter plan under threat as discourse experts warn of funding traps. The Observer Times says women surpass men in Gombe voter registration for first time as INEC pushes for greater participation. Last but not least is the international friendly, talk about Sport and Live, international friendly. Portugal wants Nigeria on June the 6th. Game fixed for Lisbon. Talks reach advanced stage. Don't mess with us. We may not lift the AFCON, but then we'll deal with anyone who tries to challenge us on the pitch.
Of course.
Then we're doing this with my colleagues, Etoma, Priya, and indeed Olamide. Etoma, let me start off with you. Look at the Senate. You know, they're still talking about the Electoral Act 2022 amendment. One of it is the fact that there is a deadlock reached by the Senate because of some of the recommendations that were made for the amendment, and they've now extended it. But what the problem there is, maybe one of the problems is the fact that if you look at the Blueprint newspaper, still uniting with the rest of the papers before it, Electoral Act review, vote buyers risk 5 million naira fine, 2-year jail, 10-year ban from politics. A lot of them looked at themselves and were like, this one is too low. Sorry.
Sorry, Tuma.
Oh my God, that thing just cracked me up.
Sorry.
Why did you pick that as one of the, but all in all, the Senate to me, people might say they are fast tracking and all.
Right.
To me they are not. Because the House of Representatives saw these clauses and all that and passed it to the Senate since December last year. I would have expected that the Senate would have been finished with the whole process of looking at the laws, doing some amendments and all that, where you talk about the vote buying thing and banning politicians for 10 years. It always sounds good on paper, but can we enforce it? Can we enforce it? That's a different case entirely. We have seen a whole lot of impunity happen before. In fact, the way they buy the votes is as if you can't do anything. So
Actually,
it's so open. Let's see how it goes.
We've actually made gains, when it comes to, electoral amendments, Electoral Act and all of that, over the years. Before, we were not used to do biometric voter registration, and now they are looking at, okay, we have to make the BVAS, as well as ensuring that we transmit results real time, so much so that anyone who falsifies it, the person goes to jail.
For me, I say this is not about politics. This is not politics at all. This is reshaping how credible our election will be. And I feel like at this point, we need to do it faster than ever. You know, you spoke about the 5 million naira and 10 million. These are bold statements. I just hope that these statements can now come in place, because oftentimes it's easy to say, oh, a 5 million ban, or a 5 million fine, or a 10-year ban. But how do we see this being implemented? I say this all the time. Josh Amupiton has a lot of work to do. This next election will determine how people will see INEC as a body, will determine how people will see the credibility of INEC. We spoke about the beavers. Also, we spoke about the challenges that has to do with the beavers. We talk about, you know, internet. You know, all of these things have to be put in place. You know, the other day we were speaking about the Electoral Offense Commission. What is happening to that commission? Because we really need it. People need to understand that you can go and vote and you will not be beaten. You can go and vote peacefully. So people that also want to perpetrate and make sure that they just cause mayhem during elections also need to have, you know, what they will face. I feel like we need to put all of this in place. The Senate has to work very, very fast. There's nothing that should slow this down, because the more we slow this down, the more we see that we may not get a credible election.
Absolutely. Olamide, if you look at the same story, it also includes INEC funding, a requirement to release election funds to the Independent National Electoral Commission at least 1 year before polling day. But they're still dilly-dallying. But although they said they will expedite action, and they'll be talking about it on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, and burden of proof has also been shifted to INEC. So the legal burden of proof in election petitions from the candidate to INEC, shifting that. But I felt anyone who is alleging misconduct, alleging irregularities, should be the one to provide the proof. But now they're saying that it is INEC that will not provide the, the burden of proof.
INEC is the fall guy. Before we get into that, this gridlock or this deadlock in passing the electoral amendment bill is very worrisome, because I've said it before, Nigeria needs a cohesive legal framework ahead of 2027. That's right. We have to make INEC's job easier for them. Now, at the heart of this gridlock is the fact that some lawmakers explicitly believe that it should be compulsory that the electoral results are computed and it should be electronical. Other people believe, well, some lawmakers believe, well, there's network coverage in some issues, in some areas. There's infrastructure gaps. Even the legality, when you want to hold somebody accountable with technology, is very, very different. So they are torn between those two thought processes. We need to have a cohesive process. But some people might argue that the problem with Nigerian elections is not necessarily technicalities or technology. It is political will. It is compliance. It is electoral crime.
Absolutely. But just to add on this, Olamide, I feel like, why don't they work on those places that have bad internet? Those places that we know
Who does the lack of technology benefit?
Because this is something, exactly. Because if we can put it there, why not putting it there for people to have? Because also having to see this result live is the best. At that point, nobody can change anything, nobody can move anything. Absolutely. So I think we should rather be trying to see how we can get internet and technology in those areas that they say do not have.
All right, then let's move on to the Punch newspaper. Federal government's 9 trillion naira domestic loan surge drains lifeline from businesses. In recent months, you see the Nigerian financial landscape has seen a significant shift as the federal government's domestic borrowing surge has begun to crowd out the private sector, effectively draining the financial lifeline intended for small, medium-sized enterprises, talking about the SMEs. So you see the key trends involve the government dominance, banking sector exposure, credit shifts to survival loans, etc., and it's causing rising costs of capital for businesses as well. Yes,
domestic loans are a little bit tricky for a lot of countries to tackle, because the international loans, the foreign loans, always take priority over them. However, when you have these domestic loans, it has a way of messing things up, especially for the small and medium scale businesses. I hope that our financial managers are taking this one up very seriously, because now more than ever before, Nigeria needs the SMS easy or small and medium scale businesses to thrive. And we do not have the enabling environment for that to happen.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So let's move on to the business Nigeria very, very quickly. New tax law exempts schools, hospitals, pharma firms from company income tax. That's according to expert advisory. The fact that everyone has been complaining about since January the 1st, 2026, they said we'll be paying tax and all of that, but they are exempting schools, even though they know that some schools are for profit, right? Schools are for profit. What is
all schools are for profit?
You understand? Hospitals, there, and then pharma firms, where because if they add tax to it, it's going to impact on the price of drugs and all of that. But I also asked for that. What about religious organizations? Well, they said that they are also exempt, you know, in tax, except they have businesses that they are running, which is not core religious, based on core religious belief. So meaning that the tax regime is explaining, it's making sure that we understand who pays what and how much.
And I love the fact that, normally I do not like to talk about tax, but let me just drop it here. You know, normally I love the fact that we are trying to explain this tax for people to understand. That's because oftentimes people have no understanding what's about and they just carry different things and they move with it. We know that this is going to help because it will lower operating costs in health and education, which is very important. You know, we've seen the cost of healthcare, we've seen the cost of education. The other day we were speaking about people, they cannot even buy drugs because of the amount and all of that. People do not even want to go to hospitals.
How high
people are even afraid to go to hospitals because the amount of money you pay to see a doctor. So I feel like exempting this will lower the cost and it will help as well. But for this tax law, I just pray that and I hope that we do it effectively, we do it well, because we can start like this and before you know it will be dancing and then it just goes down. So we the citizen as well, we have roles to play. But I think that if understanding it, because when we understand it, we can explain it properly. I feel like it's because we don't understand it, we just move with different narratives. But I think this is a good one for schools and health as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, still talking about the business Nigeria, you know, the core income is actually exempt. Commercial income is taxable, which I mentioned a little earlier. Employee income, that's the payee. Though the salaries of, you know, the employees within these organizations or institutions, schools, hospitals, pharma firms, religious centers, whatever, they are still subject to, you know, personal income, they pay as you go or pay as you earn tax. The value-added tax is also, you know, inclusive, and then withholding tax, you know, they are obligated to act as agent for tax authorities by deducting the withholding tax from payments made to contractors, service providers, etc. You know, this is getting down to brass tacks, you know, getting to understand the tax laws, the documentation very clearly.
Indeed, I couldn't have said it better myself, Ibrahim. This is tax as social policy in play. That a tax relief essentially is social policy. It's not supposed to be generosity. I think the biggest loophole or the issue that we have here, or the implications, is the fact that a lot of profit institutions might now be tempted to restructure their tenets on paper in order to qualify for exemptions. Because essentially what the government is doing is that they are trading off short-term revenue loss to essentially help these institutions, you know, run well at lower running costs. So that should translate into cheaper schools, cheaper drugs, more affordable healthcare. We have to be very careful that our generosity does not lead to taking advantage of
healthcare.
The only thing I worry about concerning this tax thing is that the education is coming after the implementation. I thought the education should have come before the implementation so that a whole lot of us understand it and embrace the policy. You know, when we understand and embrace the policy, a lot of things that are happening now, putting these things together now, we're educating people and it costs money. That's it would have been much better if it had happened before and not after.
But I think it was happening before. People were not just paying attention. People were not paying attention. They just thought, people believed that it wasn't going to take place. But the president had made that bold statement that it will happen, and it happened. So I think that it's the people that, even up till now, they do not still understand it. And how many people want to take a book and read and understand what the tax law is saying?
Well, if you are one of those that has to pay tax, and every adult in Nigeria has to pay tax,
everybody
should.
Don't worry. When they start taking your money,
that's when they will now want to start accusing the government.
What I understand is not that they will take your money, you know, it's not that they will take it, just take your money anyhow without, you know, proper explanation. They expect that you declare how much you make, you declare, you know, you make that declaration, you understand?
Okay.
So
that is assuming that we are model citizens.
Exactly. So, but if you fail, and maybe they deduct certain amount of money and then you feel like gripped, you can also, you know, get through the ombudsman and say, no, I've been cheated in this area. So you meet, you know, at what's it called? They meet you halfway, so you resolve the matter. But then let's move on to the next newspaper, which is the Guardian newspaper. Publish or perish. You remember that, what's it called? That saying, publish or perish. How universities or varsities must produce research without solutions to societal ills. We know the gown, talk about the universities, the Citadel of Learning. They always, you know, look at, okay, how many books have you published before you become a professor? You're calling yourself a doctor. How many times have you your work been cited in, you know, different journals and all of that? Olamide is itching, a doctor and a professor.
I've got a lot to say.
But the fact that we've produced so much research, how much have this research or research works translated into solutions?
Go to our research institutions. Let's leave the universities for now. Go to our research institutions that come up with R&D. They have been in shelves for years. Research in Nigeria is it's not funded the way it should. Our universities are supposed to be the hub of research that will help the economy, will help every sector, health, transportation, science, everything. But we do not do that. And when we have such a lacuna, you will expect that the people that are operating within that sphere will look for a way out.
Absolutely.
That's the way I see it.
Absolutely.
They will look for a way out. And it is this way out that the headline is talking about. You also mentioned something that is very, very true and important, where there's look, how many books did you publish? How did you become a professor?
That's right.
How many journals have we found your work in, and so on. So the, lecturers or people in the academia just have this burden of doing anything to be published.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately.
The perish or the publish or perish, has also been referred to as hedonistic treadmill, where you feel like, I have to just keep reinventing. I have to, I'm gratified by the amount of works I've done, the amount of time. My research works have been, cited in books. They also do this, as a result of the Global University ranking, where they compete. Like, we have to be the number one. When you mention top 10 or top 100, they say our school is there, but it does not translate to the problems that we have.
And I believe I'm going to say this simple. Research, funding should be based on impact. Let us see the impact that it will bring out. Because you cannot keep putting money in something and nothing is coming out of it. Oftentimes, people have brought out a lot of research. Where is the solution? It just seems like you're walking around in circles because you're just going around. You feel like you're doing so much work, but nothing is being seen. So I feel like this is something we need to look at. Even if we want to fund the research, what is the impact of the research? Are you going to come out with solutions? And oftentimes, like you said, professors, it's not about how many books you publish or how many books you read. What impact does those books do? What solutions are those books doing? Will people read that book and have like really, really good solutions to come out of it? If I pick a book and I'm reading the book and I get nothing out of it, in like maybe I read 2 chapters, I get nothing, I'll drop it, So these are some of the things we need to look at. You cannot just keep doing research, taking money, and we don't see anything out of it.
But Olamide, if you look at it, and I'm going to have to stay with you on this, because if you look at disciplinary boundaries, many academics, in the academia, they particularly in the social sciences, view their role as strictly analytical rather than solution-oriented. So they feel, let's see the problem, we identify the problem, we form hypotheses, and then we do our research, using some methodologies to, establish what the problem is, and then we make some recommendation. But if you see the part of the recommendation, it's usually,
very small, very
small. Doesn't take much pages regarding, compared to all of the, problems that have been identified. But they say, our own is to analyze, make recommendation. It's now left for the politicians to implement.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think this speaks to the general decline and the disdain for academia in society. I don't know many young people that say, I want to be researchers, I want to be a professor, I want to be a lecturer. And this goes into the issue of, I just want to be certified. That's why people are that's why our research is trapped in journals, because people are publishing for positioning and rankings, as opposed to publishing for solution-oriented papers. That is what it used to be. When I wrote my thesis, I remember, back in my university days, I remember that most of the journals and most of the people that I cited, they were Nigerians. I was seeing Olumide this, I did that. Let me give me an Igbo name, please. Ifeanyi that. Chukwu this. I was citing Nigerian, and I recently I wanted to do another academic research paper, and I struggled to find Nigerian writers, like people who had published in Nigerian papers, and that is very, very worrisome. There's a decline of academia in this country, and it worries me.
For me, I can't even do a research if I don't know what the solution will be, or I'm doing a research and I know that I'm not going to give out a solution, and I ask myself, what is the impact? Why am I doing it?
But we also have to make sure that manufacturers, startups, government agencies are in collaboration with these academic researchers, so that they are able to have solution-oriented papers.
But we need to also understand, for them to fund you, you are not just bringing out something that has no solution. You're not just bringing out something because you want to.
For it to get to the point where a company is interested in funding, they have seen the potentials.
Yes.
We have a lot of research R&Ds that are in shelves that could have solved so many problems.
That are trapped in journals. now.
They are just there. They are just there.
You know, it actually reminds me of my final research, no, not final, you know, for what's it called, undergrad, where I actually focused on new media, you know, the emergence of new media, talking about the feature media and all of that, and I said the future is now. We have even gone so past that, you know, what I've written in my research work, but it's still very relevant. But I remember presenting it to my lecturer at the time, my supervisor at the time, and then the next thing is I don't want to see you again. Like,
Why?
you don't want to do what? When I entered the inner recess of my room, prayed, the man called me sir. He used sir for me.
Professor Shita.
So if he's watching, you say, oh, so this is what this guy did. Interesting. So I think we need to emphasize, you know, prioritize, as you said, prioritize impact over outputs, which is very,
we all agree on that.
Right. So let's move on to the platform times. Antipiracy war. NCC destroys 50.6 million naira pirated books in Ondo, Ekiti. This is very related to, you know, what we just talked about, but in this case, it has to do with, you know, copyright law. 5,061 illegal copies seized from 9 bookshops. Commission vows tougher crackdown on piracy. Offenders fined. Materials forfeited. Some people were looking towards making gains, but they didn't do the due diligence, except they're in cahoots with this anti-piracy, with this piracy, what's it called, against the piracy law. So now they are losing, or they've lost close to 50.6 million naira because they're selling pirated works.
I want to look at this problem from the point of view of education. A lot of people do not know what constitutes piracy and what doesn't constitute piracy. We have that problem in Nigeria. I mean, let's tell ourselves the truth. I happen to work closely with COSON for a while, and I realized that a lot of musicians don't really know when they commit a crime just by singing something. They don't know. So maybe some more education will help. I like the fact that they wielded the big stick in this case, you know, but if some of these culprits, you know, were a little bit more educated, maybe we wouldn't have as much as this. You know, piracy is one of the worst crimes on earth, and people just don't know it. They just feel that, I mean, I just sang a song, I just wrote, you know, I republished this book, so what's the big deal?
Exactly.
It is a major deal.
And you know, Ibrahim,
say something.
one of the reasons why I don't buy books on the road is because I know they're not the original books. So as a citizen, for myself, I'm just making sure that I don't buy. No, Ibrahim, most of them are not. Those you see, they hold on the road and they'll be hitting your glass for you to look at the book. They are not the real books.
Some actually resell used books.
Yes.
I'm talking about the ones that I see on the road that they'll be begging you to buy. It's not it's not the real book, and that's why I do not buy it. I make sure that I go to a trusted place to get a book. Now, when we speak about piracy, even in the movie sector, we see it a whole lot. The other day, Bimbo Ademoye was crying, you know, seriously, that someone had just taken our intellectual property. I feel like we need to protect the, you know, the authors that write, the musicians. They need to be protected, because when people pirate your copy, then they now begin to sell. They make money off you that actually put in all the hard work. You took your time to write a book. Someone has gone to reprint the book and is selling it. So I think that these laws need to be put in place to make sure that intellectual property is taken care of. If you've put in all your strength, all your energy into something, you need to gain the rewards. Not somebody selling on the road to go and buy meat with the with
Professor
the book money.
we may not necessarily talk about this. Let's just move on to Nigeria. How does it feel calling you a professor?
I feel great. I want to thank my mom, my
dad. I'm honored to you.
Honestly, I'm so glad. I just need the cap now and the gown.
She loves
it's coming.
She loves to do a lot of acceptance speech.
Yeah.
All right then, Nigeria News Direct. Federal government's free meter plan under threat as this goes. Experts warn of funding traps. There was a time the federal government, in person of the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, when he said that the meters are free of charge. But the discourse are saying, wait, free of charge how? Who pays the person that installs these, meters for the people for the customers? We don't pay them. They are not our employees. We are not talking about that. Even us, we need to understand much more transparency how this was funded, even though they say it's funded by the World Bank, but how it was funded and how much and how are we going to recoup our losses or whatever investment.
It's a very ambitious social program to give people free meters. Free meters are very, very important because it's an end-to-end estimated billing for the end user. They know how much they're going to pay. But we had Mr. Osheshanya
Yeah, Mr.
Sheson, who came yesterday and told us the issues with the free meters. It's not free. It comes at a cost to the government. And so the question now is that it's a good social ambition, but what are the financial realities and the regulations that will make it easier for the government to recover and recoup these costs?
There's no free lunch. But at the end of the day, let me just get my meter first because I've been crying for my meter.
Estimated billion.
It would have been easy for a country that doesn't have the kind of population we have in Nigeria.
That's another thing.
The population is just it's huge. So if the government is going into something like that, then the government must have been really ready.
Think about it.
As opposed to trying to give people free meters, let us get our transmission lines and the national grid in place first, so electricity can actually pass.
Let's even have constant electricity.
So the federal government was able to bring in about 3.4 million meters under the World Bank funded program. But that's a shortfall because they're still looking at 2.5 billion, which has been received, and 150,000 persons meter. So there's still a whole lot of way to go. Let's move on to the what?
How can I get?
I need one.
Oh, you need a free meter. You can share with me via Bluetooth. Let's move on to the Observer Times. Women surpass men in Gombe. Voter registration for the first time as INEC pushes for greater participation. For the first time. But we know this is quite unusual. We know that women are usually, the ones, getting themselves registered, voting, even though they don't vote for their counterpart, their fellow counterpart, or fellow women. But it's quite interesting to see that this is happening for the first time. But if you look at the numbers, still not, that much.
What is more interesting for me is that it happened in Gombe State. I was expecting to hear things like that coming out from Anambra State, coming out from Cross River, maybe Bayelsa, but Gombe. Is a wake-up call to women in other states, that look, you have to be politically active, and it starts with registration. So go ahead and register. Women everywhere. I'm not just talking about the women in the north. Women everywhere. Please get registered and get active politically.
And Ria, if you look at the gender distribution of the 35,451 new registrations recorded within the state during the phase one, 20,475, making 58%, were female, while 42%, that's 14,976, were male. It's still.
Yeah, for me, why I say this is a significant growth is because, in the last election, if you look at it, the women were not really participating like that. The women did not really come out to even get the voters ID card, even thinking about voting. I feel like, right now, the women are sitting up. They want a better country. They want a better state. And when a woman stands up and say, you know what, I want to register, I want to go out and vote, it means like, enough is enough. They want to see reforms happen. Now I'm just hoping that they vote for their personal person. And also, I do not want it to be like they just want the card. That's another thing we need to think, because getting the card is one thing, going out to vote. A lot of these women just get the cards for different things. So I'm hoping and I'm saying that every woman in Gombe, if you've gotten out, you've gotten the card, make sure you go out and vote. And don't vote because they've given you rice or hookah. Please vote because you want to vote for the person you want to vote for.
We also need to find out the well-being of the men. Are they okay? Is everything all right? Because, we don't know.
Why do we have to always let the women have their place?
We know the lifespan of men, and at the end of the day, you find women.
Let the women just have their place.
Because of our time,
quickly
go at it. Yes, that's beyond between the reading between the lines.
It's okay.
Beyond the headlines.
It's not today that women are doing doings. This is coming on the heels of the fact that
very quickly.
This is not today that women are doing doings. This is coming on the heels of the fact that the reserve seat for women bill is now approaching a crucial role, a crucial decision in Nigeria. We've been pushing for the reserve seats for women for a long time. So we're seeing that women are increasingly participating in politics at a very commendable rate. But I will say this, the area that this happened, and this is a conspiracy theory, is in Gombe, and suddenly women are suddenly voting at an all-time high as 2027 elections are approaching. I'm not saying anything, but most voters are a very important concept.
But youth participation also, which we shouldn't fail to mention, also went high, so it's quite significant.
Quite a good one. And my friend Hawa Magaji, she's from Gombe as well, so I'm expecting you to go out and also get your voters card.
Unfortunately, she's still sleeping.
No, she's watching me.
All right, then, last but not least, international friendly. Portugal want Nigeria on June the 6th. Game fixed for Lisbon. Talks reach advanced stage. Ria, you don't want to predict. Just hold on.
Let me try.
Hold on till June. Anything
it's in June. Let me try.
The octopus
Let me
is still
try.
sleeping. No, still June.
Oh, it's June.
Now.
Okay, let's wait.
June.
Sorry.
All right, then that's about it for the newspapers up for review.